developing a car that would be a game-changer in the entire automotive industry. Based on his technical design called water fuel cell, he started to create a hydrogen-powered vehicle, the first of its kind. His goal? To help him end the United States' dependence on oil and fossil fuels. There must be an alternative fuel source to prepare the US and the world for another oil crisis. Sources say that Stanley already started working on this decades before the oil crisis. He just sped up his work process because he felt the urgency to offer a solution to the problem. He claimed that this was a revolutionary beginning. Soon, cars would be powered by water alone. The red car, supposedly the first ever vehicle powered by water, was shown across the US. Everyone was curious about its invention. It was even featured on local TV channels. It appeared like every person who saw the car was amazed at how innovative the concept was. In an interview, he said the car would only use 83 liters of water to drive from LA to New York. Incredible. That's more than 40 hours of driving. Here he was with his popular invention. How does it work? In its simplest terms, the water is split into its component elements, oxygen and hydrogen. Then, hydrogen gas is burned to produce energy. This process already exists in the form of electrolysis, but electrolysis wouldn't reduce fuel costs at all. It's expensive, and an outer source should be able to provide electricity to sustain the process. But according to Stanley, his design would be able to split water into two components and successfully run an internal combustion engine using nothing but water. Just water. Stanley claimed his design can produce far more hydrogen than previously estimated. It was revolutionary. Well, not only revolutionary, but an idea that can completely destroy our current understanding of thermodynamics and energy conservation. Over the years, automobile manufacturers all over the world have designed different kinds of engines to limit the environmental impact posed by carbon emissions. Some cars run on natural gas, electricity, and ethanol. But this invention can run cars using the most unlikely energy source, water. I'm sure no one out there could have imagined the possibility of refueling the cars with a garden hose. When applied to the mainstream automotive industry, this mechanism can eliminate harmful emissions that pollute the environment and contribute to global warming. And of course, it can put an end to the United States and the entire world's dependence on oil and fossil fuels. The world wouldn't run out of oil anytime soon, but it's great to have an alternative. Water is no doubt the best alternative fuel, and the best part is, it can be found everywhere.
It's a major breakthrough that will no doubt make motorists happy, and as Ralph Robinson explains, the Pentagon is also showing lots of interest in this project.
Water has always been considered a precious commodity, but Stan Meyer's invention may make it even more valuable. He has developed what's called a water fuel cell. It has taken the place of his old gas tank. The water fuel cell breaks down water molecules into oxygen and hydrogen. The hydrogen is used to run his dune buggy.
I don't care if you use rainwater, well water, city water, ocean water. If you don't have any fresh water, go ahead and use snow. If you don't have any snow available to you, then use salt water because there's no adverse effect to the fuel cell.
Meyer started working on this project 4 years ago. He's not a scientist. He isn't even a chemist. In fact, he never graduated from college. Myers was determined, he says, to design something to protect this country from oil embargoes.
And we have calculated that if we take the dune buggy from Los Angeles to New York, we would roughly use 22 gallons of water.
The Pentagon flew a lieutenant colonel in last week to look at Meyer's invention. There's talk of possibly using it in the Star Wars defense program and to run Army tanks. Myers is currently perfecting a water fuel cell for cars. It will cost about $1,500. He says it won't need any maintenance, and you won't have to replace it. It'll be at least 2 years before the fuel system goes into mass production. The day it happens will be one the fuel industry hates, but it'll put a smile on the face of those who've had to say at one time or another, fill her up. I'm Ralph Robinson.
As you can see, many patents have already been received, and many more are forthcoming.
A car that runs on water instead of gasoline. Can it be true? Well, inventor Stanley Meyer made an announcement today in Colorado Springs. He says he's come up with a device that will hook up to any engine and allow it to run on good old H2O. News 13's Kurt Goff tonight on the possible impact of the water fuel cell.
Stanley Meyer says the answer to dependence on foreign oil lies all around us. In seawater, tap water, and rainwater. any kind of H2O, he says, can power just about every type of engine. How? With the water fuel cell. It fits in the palm of his hand, but it could revolutionize the world.
You're talking about a pollution-free, totally new source of energy, the voltage disassociation of water.
The fuel cell converts water into a gas, hydrogen oxygen, which is released in the form of thermo-explosive energy.
So the water fuel injector simply replaces the spark plug. We hook it to a hydrogen computer system which regulates and meters the flow going into the injector. It processes the water in such a way to release this thermal explosive energy.
The man who invented an engine that can run on water says he's been offered $1 billion in cash by oil-producing countries to sell his patent. So far, he hasn't sold. Environmental specialist Jan Porter talked to the inventor, who thinks that the U.S. auto industry could produce cars that run on water now if they wanted to.
Our industrial base of the world is based on the utilization.
Stan Meyer has a car that runs on water, and that's drawing crowds at this year's Extraordinary Science Conference in Colorado Springs. Myers has developed what is called the water fuel cell injector. The injector breaks down the water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen, and the hydrogen is what powers the car.
Basically, all we do is replace the spark plug and replace it with the water fuel cell injectors you see right here. We simply feed ordinary non-processed water, or processed water in here, and as the water goes into the injector, it hits a very high pulse voltage frequency, which instantly converts it into thermal explosive energy, and as a result, we can run this car down the road on water.
Meyer's invention was introduced in Britain earlier this month, and now the Brits have followed him here.
We recently took a scientific delegation to witness Stan's work, to really evaluate it, and came back saying, this is one of the most important inventions of the century.
For 15 years, Meyer has been fighting to get his inventions taken seriously.
Most inventors have to be a loner. You have to be somewhat thick-skinned, and don't rely on other people to support you, because they will not. More times than not, an invention is really stolen from the inventors. Even in my prior development of high technology, I've had patents taken from me. I learned from the School of Hard Knocks to be very cautious.
Any of you ever hear anything about the war brokers? If you want to study about history of World War I, World War II, you'll start to realize there were men specially trained and women trained in order to bring countries into war, to break their economic back, to take over the controls of their countries. You ever hear of the Council of Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission? You ever hear about the Council, the Group of 300? You hear about the internationalists that are controlling to bring in a one world government. Now we're heading for a one world government, but unfortunately, if the one world government is headed under a control, is controlled by a Mussolini or Hitler or a person filled with demonic spirit, we're in one heck of a problem. If that democratic society of the world government would be a representative of each country of the world, then in fact we could be able to stabilize as people upon the earth. The attitude of the multi-internationalists is to come up with zero growth, industrial growth, zero population growth. When I was making a presentation in Geneva to 52 nations there, I was blocked in presenting this technology, not because of my ability of the technology, because the international attitude is they do not want industrial growth to be maintained. There's a move to try to force the countries to accept that they would sign over their natural resource rights. That if you sign over your natural resource rights, you have taken over the countries without even firing a shot. This is to help bring in a one world government. The number one thing that will diffuse and our grandfathers would awaken out of their graves and see what's taking place in our country today, do you know what happened? They would grab their arms and go to Washington, D.C. and clean out our government. Absolutely. The negativism that's presented to you is the process of desensitizing you to allow such atrocities to take over. And if you don't think that there are people in the world that do not want America to stand. You know why? Because the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, says as free people we have ability to enjoy certain inalienable rights that was given to us by God. And unfortunately there are some people who does not want us to continue to enjoy the freedom that our forefathers fought. And when I turned and said, I will do this, Lord, it had to be by faith. Because I was given a great gift That debt was to be raised under freedom. Now let's see how we can use water as fuel, because the greatest thing that all political leaders fear, that you and I would come together in one accord. That if you and I would come together in one accord, no political system in the world, no multi-internationalist groups could defeat you. Look what happened to Russia after 70 years. They said, so we no longer want communism. We're tired of the KGB killing our people, torturing our people, and said enough is enough. Water is fuel. You know, how many of you here today have driven a car here? Any of you driven cars at all? Do you realize that when you're driving on gasoline, do you know that you're running on a hydrogen? You know that if you look at the chemical equation of gasoline, you will find out the hydrogen atom is attached to the carbon atom. Is not so? And basically, in the highest octane of gasoline, you have roughly about a half a pound of hydrogen to it. Now, water, on the other hand, is 2 to 1. 2 hydrogen atoms to 1 oxygen atom. Is it not so? How many pounds of hydrogen do we have in water? You find out by the atomic weight is around 1.7 pounds of hydrogen in water. I had the most scientific calculation study on hydrogen that's ever come out of the scientific world from NASA. Did we not propel the Columbia spaceship by hydrogen and oxygen? And in that report, it clearly stipulated that hydrogen was the most ideal fuel of the future. It can be utilized anywhere, solve even the environmental pollution problem, but they did not have an answer in 3 areas. 1, to produce the hydrogen gas or release it economically from water, control the rate of production, be able to adjust the burn rate of hydrogen gas to go equal to fossil fuels, and add the 4th one, be able to transport it without spark ignition. And I wrote all the patent rights, both nationally and internationally, on this type of technology, to be able to use water as a fuel source.
When one day, as he was having dinner with his brother, his twin, and a couple of Belgian investors, the purpose of the dinner is supposedly a celebration of their work, the vehicle that runs on water, being patented. All was going well, that is, until Meyer drank from his cup of cranberry juice. Suddenly, he began to choke, and took hold of his neck as he bolted outside the diner whilst at the same time vomiting violently. As he lay dying in his brother's arms, his last words happened to be, "They poisoned me." Although the cause of death was officially classified as brain aneurysm, it is incredibly suspicious that his dying words happened to be about an attempt to murder him. Think about it, Meyer's vehicle that runs on water could be an immense hurdle for the oil industry's profit margin. However, could it really be that corporations in the oil industry could be so cold as to do whatever it takes to end this potential threat from launching? One thing is for sure, the big players were all very much interested in Meyer's work. Investments and notoriety had been gained from all the large oil companies, to investment firms, and the government was rumored to have been as well. In the end, Stanley got an enormous offer for his patent, in the threshold of $1 billion, from such large groups. However, he passed on all of them, as the main reason for his developing of a vehicle that runs on water was so that big oil companies and countries would stop being able to take advantage of consumers. Still, that unfortunately never came to be, and as we know, oil and gas prices have since skyrocketed as the water-run vehicle was not put out on the market. Stanley was a rare person, one of those that wanted to genuinely make the world better through his work. And then you wonder why the media hasn't provided any coverage on his death or his work. But there is a way for us to help, to stop this corruption rooted in the system. Get word out, make yourself heard, and tell about this story that has been silenced by the big corporations.
There is an enormous range of new things that have been worked up to a remarkable level in the past and then suppressed by the existing order for one reason or another. Either they're incompatible with classical ideas, or they upset strong financial interests, or whatever it may be. In the past, great things have been done by gifted humans. They are, in a sense, the vehicles of God Almighty in bringing this stuff into the world. And none of it has ever reached public use and public currency because of this dictatorship of the knowledge systems of the world. Video, and in particular projects like this one we're on now, they reveal that you can do to these ancient, seemingly ancient discoveries what was not possible or feasible 50 years ago. It was simply beyond technical capabilities, and the means of distributing what you discovered were all in the wrong hands. Nowadays, the internet has put all that to bed. You can't do that anymore. You know, humanity is going to have information no matter what. So I see in the things that I know about and have been personally involved with a great horizon for producing an endless series of productions like this that will bring this stuff out of the limbo where they've been shoved and into the full light of day, where some of the bright young people who are now on the earth can make them into blessings for mankind.